Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the IMI 210 call for proposal on the topic improving the care of patients suffering from acute or chronic pain. My name is Alessandra Paccamicio and I work in the IMI communications team, and I will briefly explain how to use GoToWebinar. After this, my colleague Elisabetta Vaudano from the scientific team will give a brief introduction to the call and how the IMI application works, followed by a presentation of the call topic by Petra from Grunenthal, Hiltrud from Grunenthal, Keith from Lilly, and Jens from Bayer. At the end, we will have time for answering all your questions. So how to use GoToWebinar? You've already seen when you open the webinar that you have a choice between two options, computer audio or phone call. If you use the computer audio, please make sure that your speakers are switched on and unmuted. And if you have a second, please test your sound in case you want to come live and talk to us with your microphone. If you want to use the phone call connection, that's a little bit more stable, and you can choose a number from the drop-down list. Either way, whichever method you use, remember that in case any of the two fails, you can always switch to the other one throughout the course of the webinar. The panel you see now, it's either a minimized version on the top right of your screen or an expanded version. To minimize and expand, you can use the red and white arrow button. Just below that, there's a microphone button. It's currently gray because you're all muted and on listen-only mode. If we unmute you for a question, it will become green. There's a full screen button, and then at the very bottom, a raise and lower your hand button that you can use to attract our attention or in case you want to ask a question. Asking questions is very easy. You can ask a question in writing, just type in the text and click send on the question box, or else you can also ask a question by phone. Raise your hand using the hand icon and we will unmute you. We'll take questions on a first-come, first-served basis, and while I will try to answer any technical questions that may arise during the course of the webinar, we will keep all questions related to the call and the topics at the very end for the Q&A session. So before we start, let me remind you that this webinar may be recorded and published on the IMI website and on our YouTube channel. The presentation slides will be published on the webinar webpage, and the participant list will be circulated among potential participants at the end of the webinar, possibly tomorrow or in the next couple of days. And now we leave the floor to my colleague, Elisabetta Vaudano, that will introduce the call.
Hello, everybody. So I will start for giving you a little bit of an overview of the process and the peculiarity of this topic. So what will be covered today will be really all the different aspects of this call topic, starting from the objective. Why is an IMI initiative? That's for the need for a public-private collaborative research to achieve its objective, the structure of the project, the expected contribution from you, the applicants, the contribution of the contributor, the industry consortium, the key deliverables that need to be achieved. We will not cover rules and procedure, which will be covered by a dedicated webinar that will be run on the 9th of January next year, starting at 2 p.m. like this one. You are very welcome to register already at the link that is provided and is available on our website. So, but first of all, if you apply to IMI, it's very important you have an idea what is IMI, which is the Europe Partnership for Health, and what is IMI mission, which is to facilitate open collaboration in research, to advance development of and accelerate patient access to personalized medicine for the health and well-being of all, especially in areas of unmet medical need, as today is the case clearly for chronic pain. Really what IMI is trying to achieve is to create an ecosystem for innovative collaboration, which this has to be, of course, then translated in each and every project is generated by IMI to really allow the engagement in a cross-sector multidisciplinary consortium at the forefront of cutting-edge research. It is important also that the IMI initiative provides the necessary scale by combining funding, expertise, knowledge, skills, and resources of all different stakeholders. In this way, the IMI initiative should build a collaboration based on trust, creativity, innovative, and critical thinking. And what is most important, in our initiative, we really try to foster the learning from each other for all the different stakeholders for what concerns new knowledge, skills, but also way of working together and individually. And really what we hope that everybody would take part in a transformative research that will make a difference in drug development and ultimately in patient lives. And on this, IMI facilitate by creating a neutral platform where all involved in drug development can engage in open collaboration on shared challenges. But what is a typical IMI project life cycle? So the topic has been defined by an industry consortium where different members have identified the topic and they have identified their willingness to collaborate in this important area. We have now, after the process, launched a call, and we are at the stage 1. Here we have the possibility for applicant consortia, including different stakeholders as necessary and as specified in the topic text, to apply with their short proposal. This will then be evaluated by a peer review of an independent expert panel, and the first ranking consortium with some specificity for this topic, which will be explained later, both by me and then by the topic writer, will be selected for the stage 2 application. Here there will be, from this topic, although there will be three different first ranked short proposal that will be selected, then a single full proposal will have to be prepared as stage 2. This will be again evaluated and will be then, if found successful, we will proceed to the grant preparation and the release of the funding, and the project will be launched. The submission of proposal will be done via the participant portal. You have the link here, so as every other call in Horizon 2020. And what is very important, as I said, for this topic is divided in 3 subtopics, each of which addresses specific aspects of scientific challenge. The title you will see here, and you will hear much more in the presentation by the topic writer. But what is important at this stage is really the fact that in the topic text there are defined 3 subtopics, and each of these subtopics has its own process. So applicant should apply only for one subtopic when preparing one short proposal. And also they have to be careful that each subtopic is linked a specific budget, which is clearly indicated in the topic text and also in these slides. Therefore, if you are interested in applying for more than one subtopic, then you will have to submit a separate short proposal. And then, as already said, and all will be explained later, the winning consortium from each subtopic, so the first ranked over threshold, will be invited to join together with the EFPIA consortium in a single global consortium that will have then to submit a single full proposal at stage 2. The proposal template for each short proposal is available on the IMI website and also on the participant portal. And for the first stage proposal is in a limit of 30 pages. And it's very important that when you prepare it, you look through all the different headings, since each had to be carefully addressed. The proposal, each sub-proposal will be evaluated as it is, so as it is submitted, not consider any possible improvement, and will be evaluated following 3 criteria: the excellence, where the proposal will be judged on basis of their scientific excellence and considering all the points that are indicated in the slides. Then, of course, very important also, they will be evaluated for their potential impact, considering important points like, for example, the added value from the public-private partnership approach on the regulatory, clinical, and healthcare practice, and also on strengthening the competitiveness and industrial leadership in Europe. The third criterion is also quality and efficiency of the implementation, and there you will be requested, please read carefully again the template, to make an outline of the project work plan, including in all the different roles, allocation of tasks in your consortium. There is also a guideline, including also some indication of the budget. It is very important, of course, that since you are submitting a proposal that then eventually will become a public-private partnership, that when you write your short proposal, you already consider the fact that you will merge with the industry consortium, a joint consortium. So really start to think from the short proposal and following the explanation in the template how you suggest a successful partnership could be created. And clearly, you can give some hint also how management of such consortia could be achieved. Also considering that this will have then to be agreed at stage 2 at the level of the full consortium. Some tips for being successful. Well, first of all, read really carefully all call-relevant material, which is available on the website. Material is also available on the portal, of course. Try to network and begin forming your consortium as early as possible. We have a partnership tool that might be some networking events, and there are, of course, different other possibilities as website and LinkedIn and so on that can help you to find new partner. Provide the reviewer with all the information requested to allow them to evaluate your proposal. So when you write, also have the evaluation criteria next to you so that you are sure that when you're writing, you also facilitate the work from the reviewer. That, of course, will be something that we've seen in a positive way. Then also try to finalize and submit your proposal early, so that you don't get at the last moment where maybe the IT tool will be completely full and there might be some possible delay. In case of any doubt or question, please contact the program office and not the EFPIA topic writers, since this would consist in a conflict of interest that would lead to the exclusion of your proposal from any further evaluation. Also, please be careful when you prepare your short proposal not to have any admissibility or eligibility criteria that is not met. The submission deadline is strict. If you miss it, you will be excluded from the evaluation. It is important that you have a minimum of 3 legal entities from 3 member states that are included in your consortium. You need to address all the objectives of the topic and in particular of the specific subtopic that you decide to address. And also it's important that you write your proposal so that they're not only scientific excellent, but also can have a good impact, because limited impact will end up with a low, of course, score in the second criteria. And also, in particular, to respond to the third criteria, consider carefully your complementarity with the industry consortium. Again, important, of course, to find the right partner for your project, and so network your contact. You will have now the opportunity to receive also the contact of the other fellow webinar participant. Use the partner search tool, both the IMI one, but we have also the German one and the Fit from Health one. Get in touch with your local IMI contact point. They are there for doing this, so they will be very happy and helpful to talk to you. Talk also with the Health National Contact Point and network on the social media. For example, IMI as a LinkedIn group. We would like to stress that IMI really would like to encourage the participation of small and medium-sized enterprises in applicant consortia, since they can have a very important and complementary expertise to other organizations. And in fact, they would be very important in really driving that result of your project will become something tangible that will be applied in real life, and therefore have, of course, a faster impact in healthcare. In this topic, SMEs are welcome to participate and are relevant to participate in each of the 3 subtopics. And clearly, you can read carefully the text to identify where they could be relevant. But for example, in IT technology platform expertise, for study of patient-reported outcome, development of new technology and advanced analysis technique, PK/PD analysis, and so on, are all relevant area where SME expertise could be highly important. Also, in IMI, we would like to put the patient at the center of any initiative, and indeed this is particularly relevant for the subtopic 3A and 3C. And so it is very important that you as applicant, you can think how you can improve your project performance by having a patient as partner. In fact, they could be very useful for input to clinical protocol, in operationalization and monitor of patient recruitment for clinical trial, development of material, in the wording of informed consents, in input for patient-reported outcomes, and also for benefit-risk discussion, and not to forget community outreach and dissemination. In fact, patient can be really important as a partner together with the doctor and the researcher to have all together the different expertise to create a really important complex that will be crucial for the success of your proposal and eventually of the project. And you are very welcome to contact me for any question. Please send your email to InfoDesk, and that this will be dispatched to the most relevant person.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. Now we leave the floor to Petra Blomsfunke from Grunenthal. Petra, you have the floor.
Yeah, many thanks, Elisabetta and Alexandra. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the IMI 2 pain group, I would like to thank you for joining the webinar and your interest in this call. Together with the subtopic lead, I will present our pain topic, to which the pharma companies Grünenthal, Esteve, Lilly, Bayer, Novartis, and Teva will contribute. So there is still a very high need for improving healthcare in the management of pain, and this is the scope of this topic. Acute and persistent pain of different origins is a widespread medical, social, and economic burden, and its pharmacotherapy is still an unresolved issue. As mentioned by Elisabetta, our topic consists of 3 subtopics, each of which addresses a specific aspect of pain, and each of which is a major scientific challenge. Our subtopic 3A, using patient-reported outcome measures to improve the management of acute and chronic pain. Subtopic 3B, improving the translatability of pharmacodynamic biomarkers in pain pathways of healthy subjects and preclinical species. And subtopic 3C, improving translation in chronic pelvic pain. Certain characteristics of this call process and the subsequent conduct of the overall project result from this structure of the merged call, which I will explain in the first part of our webinar. Afterwards, each subtopic will be presented by the respective lead in our industry consortium. So the call process is basically a modification of the standard 2-stage process which was presented by Elisabetta. At stage 1, subconsortia will be allowed for the 3 individual subtopics. At stage 2, the winning subconsortia will merge together with the industry consortium to build a single full consortium and to prepare a single full proposal. So what needs to be considered in detail? Next slide, please. Short stage 1 proposals from applicants should address only one subtopic. If applicants wish to submit for more than one subtopic, then separate proposals should be submitted. To allow cross-fertilization and full data sharing between the subtopic consortia, and to ensure the highest impact with an economy of scale, a single full proposal will be prepared after merging the applicant and industry consortia at stage 2. The full proposal will describe the individual activities of all 3 subtopic consortia, as well as common activities such as overall governance, communication, dissemination, as well as data and knowledge management. Next slide, please. Thanks. At stage 2, a single full proposal will be submitted by the full topic consortium, created by merging the winning applicant consortia of the subtopics together with the industry consortium. All participants working under this topic, created by the fusion of the subtopics, will be part of the same grant agreement. An overall project coordinator, which is a member of one of the winning applicant consortia, will be nominated by the topic consortium at the start of preparation of the full proposal. I will have the role of the overall project lead from the industry consortium. Next slide, please. So what is the governance of this topic? So governance of the overall project will be assured by a partnership between a project coordinator from the applicants and the project lead from the industry consortium. As said, I will have the role of the industry lead. The subtopic specific governance structures will be maintained and guaranteed for each subtopic by a partnership between a leading member of the respective applicant consortium together with a leading member designated by the industry consortium. The subtopic leads from industry are Hiltrud Liedkens from Grüntal for the PROM subtopic, Keith Phillips from Lilly for the biomarker subtopic, and Jens Nagel from Bayer for the CPP subtopic. Next slide, please. So here I will only refer to the key deliverables of the overall topic. Those related to the individual subtopics will be explained later by the respective industry leads. The deliverables of the overall topic, which have to be considered when preparing the submissions for each subtopic, are: a joint approach to data knowledge management will be adopted to ensure that the same standards are used for all subtopics and that fully interoperable data integration and meta-analysis are possible. The approach for communication and dissemination of data and results, for engagement with external stakeholders and collaborators, as well as ethical considerations, will be common to all subtopics. A comprehensive strategy for project sustainability will be agreed upon. So next slide, please. Oh, okay. So here I will refer to the expected contributions of the applicants, and again I will only refer to the contributions of the overall topic, and this is for the grant administration. The expected contributions relevant to the individual subtopics will be explained later. In the stage 1 proposals, work package 1 project management of each of the applicant consortia should include elements to ensure proper functioning of the respective subtopic. Please consider that modifications will be necessary at stage 2 in the full proposal to adapt to an overall governance in which several activities can be shared across the full consortium. This will ensure integration of the subtopics and avoid administrative redundancies. Governance of the overall topic and the constituent subtopics will be assured by a partnership between a project coordinator from the applicant consortia and a project lead from the industry consortium, with assistance from a grant manager. The applicants must already at stage 1 provide for appropriate managerial resources for grant administration of the overall topic and of its subtopics. Next slide, please. So the need for public-private collaboration. The complexity of the challenges in the 3 subtopics can only be addressed by a public-private partnership involving a variety of stakeholders with complementary expertise, working together with a multidisciplinary approach. There's a clear need for a public-private partnership and a clear win-win strategy for all stakeholders. So the combination of proprietary data inputs and R&D expertise from industry, together with contributions from the capabilities of SMEs and novel approaches from academia promise a platform from which significant improvements can be anticipated in the care of patients, in the discovery of novel therapies, and in the commercial productivity of drug discovery. Last but not least, collaboration with patients and patient organizations is also needed. Next slide, please. The project will clearly be of pre-competitive nature. The full consortium, consisting of academia, hospitals, SMEs, patients and patient organizations and industry partners, will cooperate in a pre-competitive landscape in which experience and expertise will be openly shared. Efforts will be combined to develop the tools needed to improve translation and patient centricity in the selected aspects of pain therapy. Regular meetings and workshops will be held to discuss results and progress openly. Tools and results will be made available in a timely manner to the scientific community, and possible synergies arising from interactions with other existing consortia will be sought and exploited. These are points really critical for the success of the project, and the industry partners are clearly committed to them. Next slide, please. What is the indicative budget and duration of the full project? The indicative EFPIA in-kind contribution will be €11,230,000. The financial contribution of IMI 2 for each subtopic is, for the prompts, a maximum of €4,250,000. For the biomarker subtopic, a maximum of €4,140,000. And for the CPP subtopic, a maximum of €2,840,000. If no stage 1 proposal is considered adequate for one or two of the subtopics, stage 2 of the call will still be initiated by merging the remaining one or two winning applicant consortia and the industry consortium. However, the net IMI funding and the EFPIA in-kind contributions will be reduced appropriately. Please consider that some modifications might be necessary at the stage 2 full proposal to adapt to an overall governance, grant administration and subtopic integration. Several activities will be shared among all participants of the full consortium to integrate sub-projects and avoid administrative redundancy, as mentioned before. The indicative duration of the project is 39 months. Please go back to this slide, please. It is expected that all subtopics need 36 months to achieve their ambitious objectives. A further 3 months at the start of the project are planned to allow both the inauguration of the full consortium as well as the implementation of important interactions between the sub-project teams, and to allow time for the discussions needed to ensure the success of the overall action. So this was the overall summary from my side. We will now continue with presentations of the individual subtopics, and we start with the subtopic prompts. Hiltrud from Grüntal, the industry leader of this subtopic, will guide you through the relevant slides.
Thank you very much, Petra. Good afternoon, everybody, also from my side. I will now present the subtopic 3A, as Petra just mentioned. This is using patient-reported outcome measures to improve the management of acute and chronic pain. And in the following, I will refer to patient-reported outcome measures as prompts, because this word will appear so often. So, first slide is the vision we have with this project is that the success rate of pain treatments chosen by healthcare professionals should be increased, and it should help to improve the outcome of pain treatments, thereby significantly reducing the suffering of patients and the burden on health services. You might think that this is a very challenging vision that we have, and therefore it is absolutely important to do this together in a joint approach with healthcare professionals and companies, and in best case, of course, also with patients. The specific challenges we have to face are to identify prompts which are validly indicative of treatment success, and these prompts need to be acceptable to healthcare professionals for use in their daily practice. For validation purposes, retrospective analysis will be necessary of prompts used in clinical trials conducted during the course of drug development, and will also be selected prospectively in ongoing clinical trials. Very challenging might be the identification and/or the setup of an appropriate registry in order to make the collected information available to healthcare professionals, as well as the storage and analysis of the collected data by accepted statistical techniques. The next slide, please. The objectives of the project are to align on a standardized reporting system of pain and treatment success by identifying and aligning on prompts between clinicians, academic groups, and companies, and to support the usage of standardized prompts for pain in real-world practice by healthcare professionals, and to allow the experienced success of the treatment of individual patients. Therefore, the engagement of an existing network of hospital centers would be beneficial to set up an aligned approach and contribute to collection and analysis of the prompts during pain treatment. The setup of a registry to store the data and make them available for analysis is foreseen, and also the aligned effort to identify chronification factors in pain is one of the main objectives of this project. Next slide, please. What is the expected impact on the management of pain and the R&D process? We hope to come to more informed decisions on pain treatment for post-operative, other acute pain indications, or for chronic pain. Improvement of pain relief ensures satisfied patients, faster recovery, and less workload. Prompts for clinical trials in pain defined by patients and clinical experts in the first step of this project will make it easier to identify suitable prompts for clinical trials, will allow quantification of the expected improvement in treatments, and further increase cooperation between clinical experts and companies, which will create trust in each other for future projects. Next slide, please. 4 work packages are foreseen. Work package 1 is project management for this subtopic, which will have to take into account the overall project management later in step 2. Acute pain, chronification of acute pain, and chronic pain are work packages 2, 3, and 4, respectively. I will come to details of the different work packages in the following slides. Next slide, please. So for the expected, first the expected contribution of the applicants is shown. So for work package 2, which is acute pain, we hope to attract a group belonging to an existing network of hospital centers to set up an aligned approach in the use and documentation of prompts in different surgeries. Welcome would also be experts who can contribute to set up or can provide a functional technology platform enabling research studies using prompts and enabling meta-analysis of the collected results. For the necessary infrastructure, sufficient IT expertise is required. Similar contribution is expected for work package 3, chronification, and 4, chronic pain. It is expected that for these, the hospital networks will also support the prospective observational trials in different pain indications. Next slide, please. The expertise in meta-analysis of data to identify factors leading to chronification of acute pain to nociceptive, neuropathic or mixed chronic pain conditions would also be an important contribution. Same is for the chronic pain project, which is shown on this slide. Next slide, please. The in-kind contribution of the EFPIA members is as follows. A literature review of reports on PROMs for post-operative pain is available that should be updated by the applicant. Prospective observational data after surgery or in different chronic pain conditions are collected using validated questionnaires like the EQ5D, the Patient Global Assessment, the Ease of Care Questionnaire, a Sleep Questionnaire, and others. These data should be as close as possible to real-world data. On the other hand, PROMs from prospective, randomized, multinational, multicenter, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials will be available to do meta-analysis of these outcomes. These trials include patients undergoing major surgeries of the upper limb, which will be followed up for 6 months after surgery. From this trial, also pharmacogenetic samples will become available. Another trial will include patients with chronic neuropathic pain conditions like post-herpetic neuralgia or diabetic peripheral neuropathy with a 12-week follow-up, or other chronic pain conditions like pelvic pain or dysmenorrhea with a follow-up of 52 weeks. Next slide, please. Who will gain what from the project? For public health, the project will identify optimal individualized pain treatments by using validated PROMs to significantly improve the quality of life of patients. For government and payers, the better pain relief will support early discharge from hospitals. The identification of pain chronification factors should significantly reduce burden on healthcare providers. For academia, we hope to initiate a cooperative scientific process that is needed to convince physicians to use PROMs in daily practice after having identified validated tools to measure treatment success in acute and chronic pain. The avoidance of pain chronification will form the basis for future investigations of additional therapies. And the industry, last but not least, will benefit as the project will define PROMs appropriate for inclusion into future clinical trials and thus support further new developments in pain management. Next slide, please. The key deliverables of the project are a selection of aligned PROMs for different acute and chronic pain conditions, a network of hospital centers that will contribute to the project, a functional technology platform enabling research studies using PROMs with a setup based on suitable IT expertise, a registry of the aligned and tested PROMs results with open access to allow analysis of treatment success, systematic reviews and meta-analysis of the results, and of course at the end, hopefully publications to report on approach and findings of the project. Thank you very much for your attention. Petra, please let us know who will be next.
Yeah, thanks, Gertrude. Yeah, now we will continue with the presentation of the subject of biomarkers by the industry leader Keith Village from Lilly.
Thank you, Petra, and welcome to everyone. Okay, so what is the key challenge? Well, it is the delivery of pharmacologically validated and standardized functional pharmacodynamic biomarkers in man with accompanying back translation into animals. So why do we really need this? Well, novel drugs, which have been shown to be good analgesics in animal models, have often actually proved to have low or no clinical efficacy in our phase 2 trials. And that may be because of poor predictability of animal models. However, in many such cases, it is not even known whether the anticipated mechanism of action was modulated by that drug in question. We didn't actually know if the drug bound to its target at high enough levels to have a biological meaningful effect. So these studies may not have failed because of the hypothesis or the animal models were wrong, but because the drug never actually got to the target at high enough levels to test that hypothesis. And the issue is we will never actually know that. So to try and prevent that, one of the key questions that we regularly come up with is which pharmacodynamic biomarkers are actually most sensitive and robust to prove target engagement and also to help support dose finding and investigate these PK-PD relationships in our early clinical studies. Now that's particularly important because obviously we often have targets located within different compartments within the pain pathway, peripheral nerves, spinal cord, sending control pathways or central mechanisms, and therefore different neurophysiological measures might be more sensitive to, in these different compartments. In developing new medicines, we need to also understand which of these measures can actually robustly be back translated into our preclinical experiments. And that's important because if we can understand this, we can then use these preclinical experiments in the future for dose setting studies for our new compounds. So next slide, please. And again, please. Just step through, thank you. So this is just a cartoon really trying to highlight my point. We often have drug targets in different compartments of the pain pathway, and therefore different potential biomarkers may be more sensitive to pick up effects depending on where they're located. As an example, we might be trying to target particular ion channels in peripheral nerves, and therefore things like microneurography or nerve excitability techniques may be very relevant for picking up effects there, but they will obviously be very poor at picking up PD measures for targets located in the brain. Conversely, PD measures such as EEG may be very useful for picking up central targets, but very poor at picking up peripheral measures. However, if you combine sensory evoked stimulation, so for instance, laser ERPs with EEG or fMRI, you may be able to pick up effects both in the peripheral system and in the brain. But we don't really understand which of these measures are most robust for doing this. Next slide, please. Importantly, all these types of techniques that have been selected have been shown to be able to be recorded in preclinical species. In our preclinical species. However, again, what's lacking is a pharmacological validation of these techniques. Next slide, please. So what are the key objectives? So to establish standardized protocols to measure neuronal activity in pain pathways during baseline and acute experimental pain in the presence of 3 different standard care pharmacologies, ideally targeting different compartments in the pain pathway, using techniques such as threshold tracking, resting state EEG, evoked EEG potentials, things like EEG, laser evoked ERPs, and fMRI, and then also others that are open to the call participants to come up with which will be most relevant. Importantly, these methodologies need to be translatable to animals, and also importantly to be able to actually collect PK in the relevant compartments during multiple time points to build robust PK-PD models, both in the clinical experiments and in these preclinical experiments as well. Next slide, please. So what is the impact? Well, well-validated and robust PK-PD biomarkers that will be used in our early drug development will allow phase 2 proof-of-concept experiments to be performed with the absolute knowledge that the hypothesis in question can be tested. It'll improve the ability to identify potentially safe and effective dosing regimes in our proof-of-concept efficacy phase 2 studies, and importantly, it will enable robust go, no-go decisions to be made early in the development of new therapies, both reducing our attrition and our overall development costs. I think importantly, it will also, by using current standard care pharmacology, it'll increase the mechanistic understanding of the currently available therapies, potentially leading to better understanding of their mechanisms and identification of new drug targets. Next slide, please. So the suggested architecture of the project, and it is just a suggestion, is that there'll be a work package around project management, early work package that will be involved in generating consensus on our clinical study design. Importantly, a work package around data engineering and statistics. Obviously, by collecting data from EEG, fMRI, and other techniques, there will be a large amount of data that will need to be collected and analyzed, and developing robust statistical plans will be very important. a work package around the clinical study implementation and operations of this, and finally a work package around preclinical back translation into the preclinical species with associated PK. Next slide, please. So what are the expected contributions of the applicants? Well, the key one is to propose and review the options for the final clinical study design, including choice of biomarkers, primary endpoints, test drug doses, and the PK sampling time points, and also the statistical analysis plans. Defining our statistical analysis pipelines for all the clinical and preclinical outcome variables, and importantly, providing the infrastructure required to store, analyze, and protect all the collected clinical and preclinical data, and ensure that this IT infrastructure would allow for the long-term storage and open access to this data. Probably most importantly is the complete responsibility for completing the setup, execution, and closeout of the clinical study, and to combine this clinical data with the data generated by the EFPIA companies to generate detailed PK/PD models for clinical and preclinical experiments. To identify and implement analysis routines to confirm which of the preclinical biomarkers are most predictive of our clinical PD responses for the different drugs targeting different compartments in our pain pathways. And also, I think very excitingly, to develop new and novel methodologies and advanced analysis techniques to identify specific target engagement in different compartments of the pain pathway. Can we use measures such as EEG and fMRI to understand where our drugs are actually acting within the pain pathway? Next slide, please. What are the contribution in kind from the EFPIA members? Well, obviously an active participation in the working groups to help review and refine the clinical protocols. To contribute historic PK and the PD data on the selected drugs to help with the choice of dose and PK sampling time points, for instance. Provision of a full inventory of the relevant clinical and preclinical methods and data and instruments that could be applied in the clinical preclinical studies. And analysis of all the PK samples taken during these clinical studies. So that would be taken care of by the industry partners. Obviously, a contribution to the statistical and PK/PD modeling plans for the clinical and preclinical outcome variables. And importantly, I think the main contribution will be the setup, implementation, and validation of all the biomarkers chosen and test drugs used into rodent models, either in-house or through outsourcing through CROs. Particularly, obviously, PK/PD scientists within EFPIA will also be involved in generating the models, but again, that will be the key part of the academic consortium. Next slide, please. So who will gain what? Well, obviously public health would be the faster development of new therapies, but I think importantly to prevent inclusive phase 2 studies from ever being performed in patients. Obviously reducing the cost in developing new medicines, and I think for academia, increasing the mechanistic understanding of the currently available therapies, potentially into the identification of new drug targets. For industry, really, it's very much around having pharmacologically validated biomarkers will enable very robust go, no-go decisions to be made much more early in the development of new therapies, both reducing our attrition and therefore overall development costs. Next slide, please. So what are the key deliverables? It's the validation of at least 5 pharmacodynamic biomarkers, which must include laser-evoked ERPs, pharmaco-EEG, acute pain within fMRI and pharmaco-fMRI, and threshold tracking in peripheral nerves in both animals and healthy subjects. The pharmacological validation of these biomarkers using at least 3 standard of care drugs, which ideally target different compartments in the pain pathway, and the development of PK/PD models for these biomarkers in animals and healthy subjects to generate a clear understanding of the translatability of these models for future clinical trials. I think almost more importantly is understanding which of these preclinical biomarkers cannot be used, so that maybe that potential biomarker may be very useful clinically, but will never be able to be used preclinically. Understanding the reliability of these measures, so looking at test-retest reliability, and also the effect size of these different techniques. And finally, I think the development of novel methodologies and advanced analysis techniques to really identify specific target engagement in different compartments of our pain pathways. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Keith. And now we will continue with the presentation of the subtopic CPP by the industry leader Jens Nagel from Bayer. Jens, please.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. So, yeah, I will present to you the subtopic 3.3, chronic pelvic pain. It's again about models and translation. But in this subtopic, we particularly focus on chronic pelvic pain related to endometriosis or bladder pain syndrome. So these conditions affecting the quality of life of many patients and are related to important comorbidities like depression, sleep disturbances, or anxiety and others. And yeah, despite the high prevalence of chronic pelvic pain, the cause and the mechanism of the underlying diseases are poorly understood. So no specific diagnostic or validated clinical biomarkers for chronic pelvic pain associated diseases are currently available. Additionally, no criteria for useful stratification of patient populations have been identified yet. Another hurdle to go ahead with chronic pelvic pain is that existing animal models are unspecific and the translational value is uncertain, and therefore the research into drugs for treating chronic pelvic pain is hampered by poor understanding of the mode of action and a paucity of tools for investigations. Next slide, please. And so here we come to the objectives. The basic objective is clearly a deeper understanding of the pathology leading to chronic pelvic pain. And to reach this, we need analysis of patient phenotypes to identify specific pain conditions, quality of life ratings, clinical and molecular markers, etc., which could be used as biomarker for further approaches. So the biomarkers could lead to patient stratification and to select and help to select specific effective therapies. Yeah, if we identify these relevant biomarkers in preclinical models, in clinical models, we could translate that later on to the preclinical settings. And so it's important to show the validity of these preclinical approaches. Promising and valid preclinical models we would use to improve research on chronic pelvic pain and therefore satisfy the medical needs of patients with new therapeutics. This is the future perspective we would reach here. As an expected impact on the management of pain and the R&D process. So the improvement of disease understanding will pave the way to new promising treatment options. Diagnostic biomarkers which confirm or exclude chronic pelvic pain indications would permit stratification of patients, as just said, so it would lead to a great efficiency and gain for the healthcare system. Better disease understanding would additionally would be given, and the availability of better tools would foster basic research options significantly. More predictive translational models will reduce the attrition rates, and in projects addressing chronic pelvic pain, thereby increasing the feasibility of drug development, making the whole field for research and development much more attractive. Next slide, please. Here we have the architecture of the project in for work packages. First, general one, the project management, but a very important part of package 2, the clinical part. Here we would aim for the analysis of bladder pain syndrome and endometriosis patients populations with respect to comorbidities, treatment responses, and phenotypes. So this is then the basic where we would start to go into work package 3, which is then the preclinical back translation for the identification of animal models which best correspond to the findings we got from work package 2. And finally, the preclinical refinement using the results from work package 2 and work package 3 to develop more refined and valid animal models to support research and disease understanding in this field. The expected contribution of the applicants on the next slide. Here it's very important for us that there's clinical expertise given in the target indications and the capability an interest in developing corresponding preclinical models, ideally in the same institutions. It would be needed that there's a strong preclinical expertise in models addressing the target indications, combined with strong expertise in assessment of methodologies for allodynia, hypergesia, behavioral endpoints, which are now under discussion as alternative endpoints in pain research, but as well backed up with histology and molecular biology, and strong expertise in proteomics and or metabolics would be needed. Next slide, please. From EFPIA, the in-kind contribution. Clearly, the communication dissemination of the results. The EFPIA would provide commercially available samples from endometriosis patients and the analysis thereof. And additionally, for endometriosis, rodent models employing various endpoints. Here it would be something provided, but of course as well then developed together with the partners new options, and material from non-human primates would be, in context of endometriosis, would be available as well. For BPS, here the models would be provided in the animal models for evoked and non-evoked behavior readouts and translational value studies. As a last point, very important as well for the model development is the provision of reference compounds from the EFPIA members. Next slide, please. Yeah, who will gain what? First, here on the left-hand side on the top, you have the, again, public health. So the identification of diagnostic biomarker for specific chronic pelvic pain conditions lead to faster diagnosis. Then the stratification and more precise help for patients as a consequence if you would be able to stratify patients. Academia will get access to relevant models to perform directly gated basic research with the aim to understand mechanisms which are important for chronic pelvic pain and the underlying diseases. And this optimized animal models will provide relevant preclinical tissue to model the clinical situation beforehand, again to support here the basic research. Government and payers would gain from better model understanding. This would enlarge the likelihood that better diagnosis and effective treatment options reach the patients as effective drug product. For the industry, the provision of clinical biomarkers is one of the clinical hurdles, critical hurdles for designing straightforward clinical trials aiming for the proof of concept in chronic pelvic pain. So here we would support with new animal models show clear construct validity and reproducible the basis for preclinical target validation for projects addressing chronic pelvic pain, and the commitment to invest into the direction of the symptoms and the underlying diseases. And the next, we have summarized the key deliverables. There are clearly two main deliverables. First, the identification of the chronic pelvic pain specific biomarkers and their back translation into the animal models. This would mean in detail the identification of human biomarkers of for endometriosis and BPS. Focus on the project would be a diagnostic biomarker or stratification marker. The next level is the back translation of human biomarkers to NHP and rodents, alignment of human biomarker strategy to existing emerging animal models of endometriosis and BPS. The animal models of endometriosis and BPS shall be refined to improve translatability and should be confirmed in different labs. So this will be a kind of multi-center approach. I think there were a lot of positive results into this direction already from IMI 1, where the results were confirmed in different approaches in the pain concept. So, and then finally the publication is to report on the approach and the findings of the project. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jens. And as Jens said, this is it from our side, and many thanks for your attention so far. And we can now start with the question and answer part. Just let me mention that now additional colleagues are on the line who contributed to the topic. This is Shalou Pandey from Novartis, Isabella Gascho from Weil, Peter Hein and Andreas Scholz from Grüntal, and Xavier Coudoni from Menseva.
Thank you very much, Petra. This is Alessandra again from the IMI office. So we have received a couple of questions already, which we will start answering. The first one came from Christina, and it's a question about the work package to clinical part. And I believe it was a question regarding the subtopic CPP for chronic pelvic pain. So I've already forwarded the question to the EFPIA partners that may want to provide the answer, but I will just read it out loud for everyone else in case anyone else is interested in this topic. So Christine is asking, the work package to clinical part mentions that EFPIA will provide and analyze biopsies from endometriosis patients. Does it mean that the applicant consortium role in the project will be the study design to define how this data must be analyzed and generate data from them, or is it the applicant consortium who also provides the biopsies? If so, what should be considered as a reasonable number of biopsies to have a representative population sample? Do we need to have this information in order to look for other partners able to provide these biopsies? So Petra, could you perhaps think which one of your colleagues can take this question?
So Jens, will you respond to this question?
I think because it's from the part 2, maybe Isabella, could you take this up from the clinical part?
Just a second, I will try and unmute Isabella. One moment, please.
Or is it more biomarker related? Because I'm just.
Isabella, you're unmuted now. Can you help us maybe with answering this question?
But the question went to the CPP and chronic part, right?
Yeah, it was for CPP. Yes.
Okay, so okay, then it's about the. We will provide tissue from patients, suffering from endometriosis, but these are about commercially available materials. So in the current approach, it was not planned that a specific clinical study is performed to get access to this tissue. Maybe this is that was a reason why I was a bit struggling now, but I think it was linked as well to part 2, which is the biomarker project. I was not so sure if it was really about number 3.
Christina, in case you would like to clarify your question any further, let us know and I will just unmute you so that you can speak directly to us and we can perhaps provide a more targeted answer. Thank you very much. So we move on to the next one. Carla is asking if the reporting procedure of the project will follow Horizon 2020 rules or IMI rules or a mix of these rules. The answer is it will have to follow Horizon 2020 rules, but there will be a template that is specific for IMI. Then we have Marcella asking which EFPIA partner was in charge of PROM, and it's a company Grüntal, Marcella. So in case you have any more specific questions, do not hesitate to send it to the IMI office, and then we will see how to best answer your question. Then we have Sarah that asked to be unmuted to ask us a question in person. So Sarah, I have unmuted you in case, can you hear us? Sarah, can you hear us? We have some echo and some noise in the background, but if you can speak to us, that's going to be okay. Sarah, I can't hear you, so perhaps you can send us your question in writing, or else we can try again in a couple of minutes. Let me know by chat what's your preference. Okay, then next one. Johan is asking also which EFPIA companies are leading the subtopics, because this doesn't seem to be clear from the material. You are right, Jona, at the moment this is not in the presentation. And my colleague Elisabetta will perhaps be able to support us a little bit more.
Yes, this will be, of course, clarified during the preparation of the full proposal. So it's not really information that is strictly necessary for you now. So, but all companies will, in any case, it will be a single final consortium. And maybe Petra can also add something here.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning of my talk, the subtopic leads from industry are designated, and for the PROM subtopic, it's Hiltrud Liedgens from Grüntal. For the biomarker subtopic, it's Keith Phillips from Lilly, and for the CPP subtopic, it's Jens Nagel from Bayer.
Thank you very much, Petra. So now moving on to the next question. Just 1 second, I'm going through them to see if we can group them. There is one from Frederick, and the concerns subtopic 3A. And he says, a network of hospital centers seems to be both a requirement and a key deliverable. Could you please clarify whether existing networks or only could join?
This is a question to Hiltrud.
Yeah, so maybe if you are right, this was a bit confusing. Best would be, of course, if we could attract an already existing hospital network. If this is not possible, then it would be necessary to assemble this network during the process. And in this case, it would be a deliverable. But I think this network is really key for the success of this PROMS project.
Thank you. Now we have two questions from Geraldine. The first one is related to the chronic pelvic pain subtopic. Geraldine is asking if you intend to include analysis of menstrual fluid blood and bioinformatic analysis.
Jens, will you respond?
Yeah, this is for sure very interesting. Absolutely.
Thank you both. And then the second question from Geraldine. She's asking what type of PROMs and how will you ensure patient compliance and standardization? Could this not be done by using apps where patients enter data?
Hiltrud, will you take care of this question?
Well, of course, if we have a system which uses apps for the data entry, that could be one possibility, of course. But to be honest, we don't have that in our pocket, so we would need a functional system to be shared with a sufficient high number of patients and be connected to the data assembly network registry, however.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Now I'm getting back to the question that was raised by Christina before on the biopsies. So she's clarifying that the question was related to the work package 2 of subtopic 3 CPP, where the EFPIA consortium contribution states that it will be provided, excuse me, it's not very clear, will be provided and analyzed biopsies from endometriosis patients, and would like this to be clarified and see if also the applicants must provide biopsies. I think this is the question, if the applicant consortium is expected to provide biopsies.
Yeah, this is the provision of biopsies could be as well apart from the applicants. Yes, indeed. But it's not a full study we would run with this. Oh, Petra, sorry, I was too fast now.
Yeah, so just I think it would be good to clarify: will the EFPIA consortium also provide biopsies, or is it a must to be provided by the applicant consortium?
It's not a must. It's not a must.
Okay.
Because this part is well covered. Is well covered from the EFPIA side, but of course the provision of tissue or material would be always a strong support.
And do we have any indication about the number of biopsies Christina is asking?
Yes, do you have already any idea about the number of biopsies available?
No. At the current stage, I cannot answer this question honestly. So we would have the option to feed material into this process, but in the case if somebody would have the chance to provide an interesting package, I think then we could as well think about using this additional package then. And here it's important about the conditions and the additional information which would be available with these biopsies about pre-treatment stage, etc. And then it's depending. I think it's not a question of numbers, but we could decide regarding the additional information, the quality, which package we would use then. But here we are, of course, open for to take material into this approach.
Thank you both. So now we'll move on to another question raised by Jordi Serra, and the question is related to biome. So Jordi is saying key deliverable is asking for validation of 3 standard of care drugs. Is this for each of the 5 suggested biomarkers, i.e. 15 trials? Also retest for very special techniques such as MRI could be problematic. What are the views of the EFPIA group on this?
Keith, will you respond?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first question was, do all 3 standard of care medications have to go through all the different biomarkers? And the answer is yes. So I think the idea is that we understand about effect size with pharmacology targeting different compartments in the pain pathway, and therefore we need to know the effects of the effect size of the pharmacology in all the biomarkers studied. I think the second question was around retest reliability. I guess that's slightly lower down the priority list. And if it's problematic in the fMRI and it's been previously published that those techniques have already been shown to be very reliable, then I guess that's fine.
Thank you very much, Jordi. I hope this answers your question. So there is a follow-up question by Christina again, and she's asking about the role of the scientific coordinator of one of the subtopics. In the second stage, who will decide the role of the main coordinator of the food proposal?
So this is Petra. I try to respond. So the governance of this IMI project will in principle reflect the spirit of the partnership between EFPIA and the applicant consortium. And this is true for the individual subtopics, so having a project coordinator from the applicant consortium and the project lead from the EFPIA consortium. The only particular thing here is due to the merge of the three subtopics that we will have an overall governance, and again, the partnership will be here between the industry and the applicant consortium, so that we will have an overall project lead and overall project coordinator. And I suppose that Christina's question goes to the direction, what will be the role of this particular overall leadership team? And here I think the role of us is to really ensure that the exchange among the subtopics or across the subtopics is really working to leverage on the learnings from one subtopic to the others, and to ensure that we have here the full exploit the full synergies of the three subtopics, as well as we will take over some common deliverables. Just as an example, to let you know, the communication, for example, a website can be done one website, one common website for the whole project, and this would be also then a task of the overall project coordinator and project lead. I hope this clarifies.
Maybe I can also clarify that there will be a single grant agreement. So there will be one formal coordinator that will have to sign the grant agreement. And this will have to be decided by in agreement, by the discussion between the all partner of the consortium, and will be part of the preparation of the stage 2 full proposal.
And this, just to add one point, and this is of course an important topic that needs to be addressed as soon as the winning applicant consortia of the subtopics are selected, and we will merge to one full consortium. So to really align across, among the full consortium about this role.
Thank you. There is a follow-up question from Weil, getting back to Christina's question related to subtopic 3. Raul asks, working package 3 and 4 cannot be performed if human biomarkers are not previously identified in work package 2. Could it be clarified who, consortium or industry, is expected to run human studies for identification of biomarkers related to CPP?
So this is a question related to CPP. Jens, will you answer?
Yeah, I think here it's important to underline that we would need the analysis and the clinical part from existing material, because the volume is not large enough to run here a full clinical study approaching endometriosis. Maybe that's a kind of misunderstanding we have here. So we would analyze existing material and try to identify here the relevant biomarkers to allow then later on the back translation into the preclinical systems. And as well, for this preclinical system, for this preclinical approaches, we need enough time and volume, and therefore we have to rely on existing material from the clinical part, and have no chance to run here a full study. This was not the intention. Maybe this was a misunderstanding.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Geraldine has another question about grants admin and concerning Leah's. Geraldine, at the moment, to be honest, I find it a bit hard to understand the question to give you a good answer. So perhaps if you want, I could unmute you, or else could you please rephrase the question if you don't mind? Thank you very much. Another question raised was about gender equality and outreach. How will you address gender equality and outreach? Involving patient associations, as mentioned, would also be crucial.
Well, who can answer? I did not. So, Alessandra, maybe could you repeat the question?
So, apart from the patient involvement importance that was already stated during the presentation, the question is, how will you address gender equality and outreach?
How we address gender equality? Did you say that?
Yeah.
That is strange.
Perhaps otherwise I can answer.
Yeah.
I mean, applicants are requested via the template to address how gender can be important in the research that is addressed by the topic. So, of course, this is an aspect that the applicant should consider. And also, so if it's an evaluation criteria, indeed, so you have to consider how in the different topics and the different indication gender should be addressed. So this will be specific for the specific subtopic. So again, read carefully the objective and make your consideration. And as I mentioned in my introduction, indeed, patient involvement of patient organization is welcome specifically for the topic 3A and 3C.
Thanks, Elisabetta. We have a couple of questions on the timelines and the deadlines of the call, obviously. So, unfortunately, the call has not yet been launched, and this will happen. We expect this to happen in the next few days, so really, really soon. And until the call is launched, we are unable to say when the deadline is going to be and the rest of the timeline. So we would like to ask you to please bear with us. And it's a matter of days. As soon as the call documents are online, you will see this through our website, our LinkedIn channel, our Twitter account. If you follow us on any of these platforms, you will get the news as soon as it's out. And that will contain all the information about timeline and deadlines. Sorry that I can't be more helpful at this stage about this, but we need the very final text, and we need to publish it before we can answer the question. There is another question from Carla about the average number of partners that is expected to participate. It is clear that eligibility is minimum 3 partners from 3 member states, but the first stage made of more than 10 partners is a good estimate. So, Carla, this depends all the time on the topic, on the expertise, and the important part we always say is to answer each single point of the call, all the requirements. And it's very hard to say what is the optimal number of a partner consortium in the application. Elisabetta, do you want to add anything more?
Well, I think, again, read very carefully the objective of each subtopic. So since you will have to prepare a consortium that will address a subtopic, so think about the specific expertise that you need for that subtopic, and on the basis of that, identify your partners.
So now we'll try again to unmute Sarah, because you had a question before. Sarah Ben Attia. Sarah, can you hear us? Are you online? I'm afraid, Sarah, I can't hear you if you're trying to speak to us. So I'm sorry, we'll have to mute you again, and I hope you can get in touch with us later or in writing. Yes, Geraldine would like to ask another question. So, Geraldine, you're unmuted, and you can ask your question now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Geraldine Canny. I know a colleague of Jens Nagel's at Bayer, so I'm a biologist very interested in endometriosis and interested in the non-diagnostic methods. And I also wanted to say that I'm a grants manager, but I wear various casquettes, and I'd be very interested in being involved later on. I wanted to make my point about the patient associations and their involvement. I'm currently involved with 2 patient associations, and I'm a national founding member for the UPATI platform, which is an IMI initiative that's already coming to an end now, although it will be continuing for 2 further years. So the notion, I would think, of patient involvement and education would be crucial in the sense that for the PROMs, for example, or the PROMs, so PROMs and CPP to me is linked in the sense that you have women who have pain during menstruation, during defecation, during sexual intercourse. How are you going to teach them to standardize the pain outputs, the training and all that goes into it? So I really think this is a super initiative, and I think that the PROMs and patient education and patient associations really there is something that can be interwoven, and it could be very, very useful. I'd also like to push for the metabolic aspect in terms of menstrual blood or even urine, because we know that hormones don't just work, it's also metabolites, and there are various information that one can glean from such biomarkers which could be combined with a bioinformatic analysis that I think would bring a lot. So I just wanted to say also regarding gender, it is an evaluation criterion from the perspective of, are you looking at pain in men and women? I mean, for some conditions there, it's specific to women, obviously endometriosis, except in very, very rare cases where the lesions are located elsewhere, but generally a women-specific disease. Are you also looking at men and women? And the gender issue is not just relevant to the carrying out of the performance, but also the participants and who gets information. Are there postdocs? Is it equally divided in participants as well? So it's an equality from both perspectives, and I recognize not always easy to manage, but it's something that is important. And also say here from my experience in grant writing and helping people with grants is that the impact, not only innovation, implementation, but also impact and outreach are very, very important. So, you know, are you organizing a public event to explain pain and PROMs regarding pain to patients, etc., etc., that could also be interwoven into the application. So again, I just wanted to introduce myself to maybe stay in touch with some of you, and I really hope that this is an initiative that can go forward and obtain funding. It's a huge need, especially for women's pain and for the CPP aspect and endometriosis. It's a huge need.
Okay. So, Geraldine, I think thank you very much for your comments. I think that it's good that your fellow webinar participant could listen to you, so that you can consider this for an application. Clearly, you say these are all aspects that are also part of the evaluation criteria, and therefore, of course, the evaluators will look very carefully at the different application, and then they will make their scoring on the basis also of this important aspect. So I think that's very important. I would like to stress, however, that it is absolutely forbidden any contact between applicant and the EFPIA team because of potential conflict of interest. So please be very aware of this.
I don't understand. Applicants and EFPIA? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So applicants that are preparing their proposal have to prepare their proposals, and they must not get in touch with any of the EFPIA representatives.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even know. I presume that the applicants are speaking to you here. I mean, they're participating in the webinar. Or potential applicants are, no?
Yes, okay, but the presenter are from the EFPIA company, so contact with them is not allowed. The only contact is now during this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. We have one last question by Ka. Petra, perhaps you may be able to help me here. So Ka would like the panel of each subtopic to summarize priority given to proposals that emphasize patient stratification and real-world evidence for improving clinical trial efficiency. Is there anything else that we can add on top of what was already explained in the slides, Petra?
So I'm just looking to my colleague Hiltrud. Is there anything else we can specify, clarify?
Well, at the moment we do not want to disclose more details.
Yeah. I'm sorry, so for the moment,
no. So I think again, I would stress the applicant, please read very carefully the topic text and try to identify in the objective, in the subtopic you are interested in, which I don't know which subtopic you are interested in specifically. There is some subtopic where patient stratification aspect is, or real world evidence is mentioned, so please be very careful, read very carefully the topic text. All the proposal will be evaluated on the basis of how well they address the objective and the deliverable as in the topic text.
Thank you, Elisabetta. We have no more questions. Perhaps we will just wait a couple of seconds to see if anyone else would like to ask clarifications before we close the webinar. This seems to be all. So I hope this has been informative and it clarified the topic specifications and the way this call is going to work. We would like to encourage you to follow our website and our Twitter account, our LinkedIn group, in order to know as soon as possible when the call is launched, because obviously we understand that will provide even more clarifications of the final topic text and all the relevant information available to you. Big thanks to Petra and all the EFPIA team for your help and the preparation of the topic. Thank you, Elisabetta, for your help today as well, and thank you to all of you who participated in the webinar. We wish you all the best in the preparation of your proposal, and we hope to speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.